This call is now being recorded.
Good morning. Shall we start, Shobna?
Good morning. Good morning, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we can start.
Yeah, Dr. Muthubia, good morning.
Sir, good morning, sir. Welcome,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Shall we
yeah.
start,
Well,
sir?
yeah. You can start. Yes. I'm just going to say. Yeah,
Very good morning to one and all
yeah.
present here. It
So
is
I
my
hope you
proud
can
and
see my.
privilege to
Yeah,
welcome all of you for this 1 week faculty development program on thrust areas of research in civil engineering, organized by Department of Civil Engineering, Dr. NGP Institute of Technology, Coimbatore, in association with the Indian Concrete Institute, Coimbatore Center. I am happy in welcoming our today's chief guest, B.B. Das, Professor of Civil Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, Surathkal, for this FDP. Thank you for accepting our invitation, sir.
thank you,
I
Dr.
am happy
Muthubia.
in welcoming all the participants who have joined through the Google Meet, and also many are unable to join as the meeting is full. So the YouTube link is shared. You can watch it through YouTube. I would like to thank our management, principal, and other authorities for permitting us to conduct this 1 week FDP on thrust areas of research in civil engineering. I am thankful to all the resource persons who accepted our invitation and going to deliver on thrust areas of research in civil engineering. I thank all the participants for their interest in attending this faculty development program. I also welcome the chief guest again and also the participants for this 1 week faculty development program. I would like to invite the coordinator, Ms. Shobna, to deliver the address on chief guest profile. Thank you.
A very good morning to one and all present here. It is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Dr. Bibhuti Bhushan Das, sir. Dr. Bibhuti Bhushan Das is currently serving as an associate professor at National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, Surathkal, India. His research interests include design and development of sustainable construction and building materials, microstructure and durability of concrete, construction planning and practices. Dr. Das has handled a number of research projects sponsored from Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Royal Academy of Engineering UK, Kudendramukh Iron Ore Company Limited, Mangalore Refinery and Petrochemicals Limited. The fund generation and research contributions have led to the development of sustainable construction and building materials laboratory at NIT Surathkal, a specialized lab that practices the theme of sustainability. He has published over 100 papers in journals and conferences and has given several keynote presentations across the world. He has guided 4 doctoral students and more than 60 master's theses. Currently, he has 8 students who are doing their doctoral thesis and around 15 students having their master's degree. He has been serving as a postdoctoral research associate from Center for Innovative Materials Research, Lawrence Technological University, USA, and has obtained doctorate of philosophy from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay, India. He has won a number of awards, one of the prestigious being the Outstanding Reviewer Award from Construction and Building Materials Journal, Elsevier. He has edited number of books entitled Sustainable Construction and Building Materials, a selected proceedings of ICS CBM 2018. Recent developments in sustainable infrastructure, select proceedings of ICR DSI in 2019, Smart Technologies for Sustainable Development, a selected proceedings of SMTS 2019, Recent Trends in Civil Engineering, proceedings of TMSF Conference 2019, and is serving as one of the guest editor of the Indian Concrete Journal and as on the editorial panel of some of the reputed construction, engineering, and material journals. Sir, we are happy to have you with us. Once again, I welcome you for this FDP. I also welcome all the participants and our head of the department to this FDP. I also thank our management and our head of the department for giving me this opportunity. Thank you all. So kindly take over the session.
Thank you, Ms. Shobha. Thank you so much for the brief introduction, and thank you, Dr. Muthupriya, for inviting me to this FDB. So, and welcome all the participants and the students, the professors, okay, like, and if any, like, research students are also there. So today I'm going to talk about a very much advanced topic actually of research, that is on interfacial transition zone of reinforced concrete. Well, the moment we talk about the ITZ, interfacial transition zone, for a reinforced concrete, we understand it is between the steel and the concrete, isn't it? Now, how we are going to understand, how you are going to characterize the ITZ properties? Well, in a common term, we just think about the ultimate bonds. The ultimate bond strength when we talk about the ITZ in reinforced concrete. But actually, it is not the case. There are many things, many things more than the ultimate bond strength. So I will just go into the discussing of like some of my like work that we've done. Actually, this is that being done by one of my scholar. He is a graduate student already, and now he is in College of Engineering, Pune. So I should, I feel like acknowledging him, like for this kind of this work actually. Now, what is an interface actually? What is an interface? Now we know where two or more systems meet and interact with or without affecting one another. So that we normally like define as an interface. So same case, for a reinforced concrete, there exist a number of interfaces in the concrete due to non-homogeneity between them. You know already when I talk about a transition zone for concrete, there are many. The zone between the aggregate cement, the zone between even the cement to the hydrated cement to the non-hydrated cement particles. So there are many such actually transition zones are being available. But we civil engineer, we least bothered about that. Well, there are some research is definitely is going on, but we as a civil engineer, we just talk about the performance of the structure. So that is our important actually. But remember, the performance depend on the microstructure characteristics, the ITZ characteristics, the permeability characteristics. So all these actually define the performance of the structure. So, so as I told you, these interfaces play a vital role in understanding the unique behavior of concrete. So the behavior of concrete in the structure, remember, is being controlled by the interfaces. So maybe interface between the steel and concrete, or maybe the interface between the aggregate to the cement, or maybe the hydrated products to the non-hydrated products, or maybe there are still in a micro level like the angstrom size gels to the micron size of calcium hydroxide. There are many such actually if you discuss about all this, but the primarily when we talk about the interface in reinforced concrete, we talk about the transition zone between the steel and concrete. Okay, that is what we are going to discuss on today's lecture. Now the point is why there is a non-homogeneity within the concrete. That is we need to understand. Well, the causes for non-homogeneity is difference in the specific gravity of ingredients. You know already the specific gravity of cement is more than 3, whereas the specific gravity of aggregates goes to 2.6, between 2.7. If you are using some other material, maybe such as fly ash, you are even going lesser specific gravity, that is 2.2. Again, I am adding water. Water also is one of the ingredient, isn't it? Now the specific gravity of water is only 1. And if you are going for super plasticizer, also it has a very low specific gravity, around 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.06, or so that is in the range. So now when we talk about the concrete, we discuss about several other ingredients we call as the secondary cementitious materials. Maybe it is a fly ash, maybe it is a GVS, maybe it is a ligaphium, maybe it is a rice casas. So maybe it is a bagasse. So there are many such things. Maybe a C&D construction demolition waste, maybe a recycled aggregates. So there are many the ingredients we talk about when we now manufacture the concretes. So the primarily the non-homogeneity is difference in the specific gravity of ingredients. Then if you go slightly into the deeper scale, the difference in their physical, morphological and chemical characteristics. Well, some of the ingredients are pure calcium based. Some of the ingredients are purely siliceous materials. Some of the ingredients, the combination of calcium and silica. Some of the ingredients may be of completely of different characteristics, such as plastics. When we talk about the plastic waste, it is a completely different material, completely different chemical characteristics, and completely different in physical characteristics. So there are the non-homogeneity is nothing but the difference in their characteristics. Next is the formation of different hydration products. products. I was just talking about. Well, I am a civil engineer, and I know for me the most important hydration product I look for is the calcium silicate hydrate. That is the one is defining my all engineering behavior of concrete. That is the one giving the binding. That is the one giving the strength. That is the one giving me the impermeability. That is the one giving me the less pores in the concrete. So everything, but it is not the case. When I add water to the cement, well, I get different varieties of hydration products. Well, it is calcium silicate hydrate, calcium hydroxide, the monosulfates, the etringides. There are many such actually hydration products are being formed depending on the type of ingredients, the source of materials. So that is also one of the prime reason for the non-homogeneity in concrete. Remember, that is what you should understand. Actually. So when I talk about the steel concrete interface, so that is what we discussed about the non-homogeneity in concrete. But let us move into the now steel concrete interface. So what is the non-homogeneity? Well, the non-homogeneity is the steel is very high in specific gravity, a very dense material, as compared to the specific gravity of concrete. Specific gravity of concrete. So that's the major reason. Okay, there is bound to happen a non-homogeneity, and due to the non-homogeneity, there is a must formation of interfacial transition zone between them. That is natural actually. You cannot avoid. It is impossible job actually. So when we talk about the steel concrete interface, okay, that is SCI, mainly consists of two parts. SCI mainly consists of two parts. One is the steel part of steel concrete interface, and another is the concrete part of steel concrete interface. Now remember, come to this picture. You see this picture actually. Here it is my steel concrete interface. This is my steel concrete interface, and this side, left side is my reinforcing steel, and right side is my concrete. So this line, this dotted line is dividing the steel part of steel concrete interface and the concrete part of steel concrete interface. Now let us go one by one. Now come to the steel part of steel concrete interface, SCI. Well, here you will not get anything except the bulk steel. So now what it can, like, if you want to strengthen the properties of the bulk steel, what you have to do? You have to strengthen, or you have to take the help of a metallurgical engineer. So it is pure metallurgy. So we no need to think about much about the bulk properties of steel, isn't it? Now what is important for me is the bulk concrete, that is concrete part of SCI, because this is the what is the role of civil engineer. This is the what the role of us, the field engineers, the manufacturers of concrete. So they are the people who has to think about or understand about the concrete part, the bulk concrete. Now you can see here how much variations or how much non-homogeneity is there in the bulk concrete. Now this is my cement paste, this is my aggregate particles, this is my mill scale and pre-existing rust layers. Then you come to here the phases and microstructure different bulk concrete. Then somewhere it is the bleed water, somewhere it is the air voids, somewhere it is the concrete splatters are there, somewhere there is some cracks. This complete, okay, like it is a continuous crack, and somewhere it is a slip. So that is the non-homogeneity for bulk concrete or the concrete part of SCI. I'm talking about the SEI. Remember, not in the concrete. It's the only the concrete part of steel concrete interface. There are so many things are there. Actually, we need to understand the, the in a proper way what is my concrete part of steel concrete interface. So if you what I talked about, like, so steel part of SCI, it is mainly consist of passive film, mill scale, and native rust layer. Means all this is characteristics related to the steel, the metallurgical properties. Actually. Now, when you talk about the concrete part of SCI, made up of porous band of hydrogen products, mainly consist of cement paste, mortar with large calcium hydroxide crystals, pores, small amount of CSS gel and unhydrated cement particles, having slightly higher water cement ratio. The increased CH crystals, that is calcium hydroxide, CH means calcium hydroxide crystals, water cement ratio and unhydrated cement particles causes alkaline environment with pH around 13.5. So, well, these are the information that we have collected from the literature, and also we have checked and verified in our lab. Yes, whatever the reported literature is there, it is absolutely okay. The same thing we are getting it. So that is my concrete part of steel concrete interface. So now you can see, you must have seen this kind of pictures. Now, what is this kind of picture? Well, this is, you can see here, the complete dark is a steel and surrounded by the reinforced concrete. So this is a core being taken from a concrete beam. So this is called reinforced concrete cut sample. You must have seen actually. Now, if I enlarge it, and you can see this is one of the picture taken from scanning electron microscope. So what is the portion is being magnified? Well, you can see here, this is the my steel and surrounded by my concrete. So exactly on, okay, that portion, that ITZ, or you can say the interface between steel and concrete part is being magnified here. You can see here, when I magnify it in a scanning electron microscope, this portion is my steel bar. You can see here, it is a single crystal grains, and there is no other things are there, not much variation is there. That is my steel. You know, the metals are very much uniform properties of the material. Now come to here, the concrete. Now this portion is my concrete. You can see here, much denser, little bit denser, okay. And okay, fine. There are some grains or textures. I can say this is my concrete. But come to my ITZ, that is my interface, that is my interfacial transition zone. You can see here, this is very much in change in the color actually. First of all, the color is significantly changing than the concrete. That is, it is quite okay. It is whitish in color actually. I am going more and more okay, clear, okay, like whitish, and you can see lot of pores. You can see here the these are your pores. There are pores. This is your pore. This is pore. So also there is a page of continuous pore is available. You can see here, starting from here, you see that it's continuing, it is continuing, and it is continuing. So this is my basically the interfacial transition zone. Now imagine if you are getting this kind of non-homogeneity, okay, between steel and concrete, what will happen? What it will happen? Well, definitely the water will pass through, water will seep through. The aggressive ions will definitely pass through the ITZ very easily, and they will attack the steel, okay, and ultimately it will lead to the corrosion of steel, okay. Now, what is the importance? Why, okay, this kind of research we thought of doing it? Well, what we realize actually when when we talk about a service life prediction for a reinforced concrete structure, mostly how we do in like most of the cases across the world, we normally go with the entities. Mostly, okay, like with the rebound hammer, ultrasonic pulse velocity, or maybe a profometer. Okay, so that is the way we normally go with the rehabilitation work. But when we actually work on the service life modeling, so when we actually determine the remaining service life of a reinforced concrete structure, well, what we realize, the porous zone thickness means the porous zone thickness is nothing but your steel concrete interface, the thickness between the steel or the gap between the steel and the concrete, that is found to be playing a vital role in affecting the durability and service life of reinforced concrete structures. Now, many service life prediction models. There are many models are there. If you go into literature, well, there are many such models. Prediction models are there, with the help of which you can determine the remaining service life for reinforced concrete. What we observed actually, many service life prediction models have incorporated the corrosion thickness around steel interface to predict the time required for corrosion cracking. Well, remember, the service life prediction models nothing but is the determination of when, because of corrosion, the concrete is going to crack. If you can determine at what time concrete is going to crack, that is what, well, remember in a RCC reinforced concrete structure, if your concrete is cracked, means remember that is the point where your service life is almost getting lost. Means concrete is cracked, so then concrete is going to fall in a patch, and then the steel for reinforcement is going to be exposed, and the corrosion will start, and that is the way you can say the bridge or the structure, the bridge, the building is at risk. Means that is the point where we need to evacuate people from the either buildings, or you have to stop the moving of the traffics in the bridges. So whatever the case it is, so you have to take measures. So that is my actually service life prediction models. Now what is happening right now, till now what is happening actually, what was happening like before our research. So a constant value of corrosion thickness is being assumed for predicting the service life of structures without any experimental verifications. So means all the prediction models, there are many prediction models are available actually. We checked everywhere, they are saying assume a constant value of corrosion thickness. So means imagine like you have a concrete and steel. Now the sample I shown you, so this is my sample. So I will assume the ring. There is a ring of like this kind of like porous band is there. That is what my porous thickness I am saying. So this thickness I am saying, let us assume it. Well, in a civil engineering like design, many things we assume, isn't it? You must have assumed when you design for a beam, reinforced concrete beam. So there are many assumptions in a in a design. So this is also all the researchers are being assumed. They were assuming yes, there is a ring, there is a constant thickness ring is available within the steel and concrete. But do you think after seeing the picture, do you think this the pores what is available everywhere is having the same thickness? Everywhere are you finding same thickness? No, it is not the case actually. It is not the case actually. So means that is found to be a big flaw in the service life prediction models. So that is the way we thought of we will work on determining what is the happening when we go with measurement of porogen thickness. Okay. Now come to this. Okay, service life model. I was just talking about like when the concrete is going to crack. When the concrete is going to crack. Well, now let us assume the x-axis is representing the functional service life of the structure. Functional service life of the structure. And this is y-axis is representing the pressure caused by the corrosion. Pressure caused by the corrosion. Well, when I talk about the beginning of the service life or the beginning of the functional service life, how it happens actually, what is the mechanism? Well, the moment you build the structure, you build the concrete or build the reinforcement concrete, the first job is it is going to have an exposure, okay, against the harmful ions such as carbon dioxide or maybe the chloride. So we let us assume for some time, for initiation period, the penetration of carbon dioxide and chloride is going to take place. Well, or you can say the movement of moisture, okay, may take place. So when I am going with the penetration of carbon dioxide and chloride, and till the point I will say my cover for the concrete, is going to take care. Means, or you can say I have given sufficient cover from the steel to the concrete, and the concrete quality I have made so much good. So the penetration of carbon dioxide and chloride is going to take sufficient amount of time. Till it is reaching the reinforcement bar level. Remember, that is most important. Reinforcement bar level. So means, so that amount of time, let us assume is the initiation period. So means initiation period is till the harmful ions or any other aggressive ions such as carbon dioxide or maybe chloride reaching to the cover level. Means it is overcoming the cover and just okay, touching the reinforcements. So what will happen actually? The moment it will touch the reinforcement, remember, it will like the moment it will. So that is the point where actually that is the point where I am going to experience the corrosion. So means this is the point where I will say my cover is already lost by the aggressive ions, or because of the continuous penetration of carbon dioxide and chloride, the concrete lost its passivity, lost its resistance. So this is the point where I will say it has just okay touched the reinforcement, or I will say the corrosion is just initiating or getting initiated. So what will happen actually? Well, sometime now we have seen there is a gap, isn't it? There is a gap. So so what will happen actually? So the moment the corrosion starts, remember the steel okay is experiencing okay two types of corrosion, or you can say, I don't say the corrosion, actually two types of rust. Now you must have seen a new steel is coming and just okay we are keeping it outside. After some days you must be getting some kind of rust. You must have seen, okay, if you take it okay in a hand, you will get a layer of color, but that will be color of red, actually red color. So remember, that is your passive layer for the steel. Means actual corrosion, or that is called as a black rust, is not started actually. Till now not started. So means, so that is the point where I will say just okay, is the red rust started, and that rust is filling the pores. So which pores? This is the pores. This is the my pore actually. So this is the my pore, and they are filling up. This because the moment the rust will come here, and it is going to fill. Even okay, even first it will red rust, then it will black rust. So remember, the rust has a very low specific gravity. Means the steel, which is of 7.85, but the rust has a density of 1/3. Density of 1/3 than the steel. So what will what will do? It needs more space. It needs to occupy. It will occupy more space. Where it will happen actually? Well, initial stage it will keep on filling these pores actually. So that's what okay. It is showing the expansion time or the pre-expansion time. So I will say is my expansion time the pre okay. So means till now there is not much stress is being pushed to the concrete from the steel. Okay, so last stage is my stress buildup. Stress buildup is basically the moment all the space between the steel and concrete is getting filled up. Now the moment the corrosion is keep on happening, you will get more and more rust. But where okay, it is going to occupy the space. There is no space. All the space between steel and concrete is being filled up. So that is the point where stress is going to build up within the concrete. So steel is going to push radially to the concrete to go out from me because I need more space. I am getting corroded. My rust products need more space. So that's why it is called the stress buildup. Stress buildup within the concrete. Remember. Now, what will happen actually? Well, the stress will keep on build up. At this point, means that is pressure caused by corrosion. Where this is the point where the tensile strength of concrete is become less than the pressure caused by the corrosion, and that is the point where your concrete is going to crack because concrete is being pushed okay from the steel. So radially okay, it is going to develop a stress, and that stress, if it is overcoming the tensile strength of the concrete, remember tensile strength of the concrete, that is the point where I'm going to get a crack in the concrete surface. So that is the point I will say, or I will say the pressure required to cause cracking of concrete cover. Okay, so there is a pictorial representation. We will go into it. Yes, you can see here. Okay, same thing. Whatever talked about the three-phase model. Now here you can see this is my concrete, this is my steel, and this is my steel, and this is my porosion. You can see so steel, and there is a gap between steel and concrete. The initial stage of the construction. Initial just okay is a new construction actually. Now what will happen actually after the aggressive ions start reaching the steel? So from the steel, so now the steel is getting corroded. So all the space is being filled up. You can see this is filled actually. So corrosion products are being filled within the space. Now when it is completely filled, now the stress is going to build up. As I told you, the rust is having a much lower specific gravity. So the stress build up radially, and what will happen? Well, at a point where the tensile strength of the concrete is going to be lesser than the stress is being generated by the corrosion products, volume of the corrosion products, you will experience a crack in the concrete. And that is what is the mechanism of concrete corrosion cracking process. Remember. Well, this is a very little advanced topic. You can stop me and ask at any point of time. I will be happy to answer. So, so that is the point where you will get a patch of concrete is being fallen on the floor. You must have many of us have experienced a patch of concrete is falling from the rooftop. You were you were in a home and you will see a patch is being fallen actually. That is a common actually. I've seen in my childhood times, experienced many such times. Old houses, if you go, old historical monuments, if you go, if it is a reinforced concrete, you will see, you can able to see there will be patches of concrete fallen. Even there are some old bridges also. If there are concrete bridges, you can see there are that because of the cracking or because of the corrosion process, and the patches of concrete is falling. Well, I will tell you, like in India, this is not much severe, but in a coastal part, in all the coastal zones of India, it is a common process. I will tell you, because I know we are just in the Bay of Bengal. Well, I belong to Odisha and in the just in the coastal. I mean, I'm from a coastal city, and this kind of phenomena is a common actually for us. So I always used to think, why concrete is falling? Why not it is getting sticked there itself. And also, if you go to the cold countries like US, United States, Canada, then all European countries, where they are spreading the de-icing salt in the bridges, in the roads, and many such places. Why? For melting the ice. So corrosion is a prominent phenomena there actually. And I have experienced many such problems in the bridges. So many suddenly you will see a patch of concrete going to fall from the bridge, and a vehicle is passing, and imagine a patch of concrete is falling on your vehicle and you are traveling around 120 kilometers per hour. What is going to happen? So this is a serious concern in a cold countries like United States and other cold countries. So definitely there is a important actually research gap was not being addressed that time. So what is the actually significance? Well, a small variation in the considering the pores and thickness around silicon interface leads to huge variation in service like prediction of concrete structure in marine environment. Well, I will tell you, you will get to know. Now you don't feel this is the thickness or what is the thickness of the porous zone. Remember, this is just in the micron level. So the size of porous zone is only in micron meters. That is 10 to the power minus 6 meters. So even though it is in the micron meters, if your assumption is slightly deviating, or if there is a small variation in the micrometers range, you will get a complete different like complete variation in the service life or remaining service life for the structure. So imagine how much dangerous it is. Well, this is the point I have experienced when I came back to India and applied these models in many of the bridges in Mumbai city. Because Bombay is just on the coast and highly corrosive environment. So corrosion is imminent. So many such bridges, when just with the help of NDT like rebound armor and ultrasonic pulse velocity or when profometer, when the consultants have suggested the remaining service life will be 20 years, with some minor rehabilitation job, it did last only for 6 years. Imagine 6 years, sometimes 5 years, sometimes 10 years. So means the determination of remaining service life is didn't work with the entities. Didn't work with the entities. So what is the actually, so when we applied this model and with the entity works, we realized it is not giving 20 years. The service life, okay, modeling is only giving 6 years of life. Only giving the 6 years of life. So that is the problem actually. That is the problem. So the challenge is thus assuming a constant value for the value of porogen thickness for all kinds of concrete in modeling appears to be an oversimplification. So well, this is the point where I realized introducing different cements, like we have in the market ordinary Portland cement, we have in the market Portland pozzolan cement, we have in the market Portland slag cement. So basically right now we have three types of cements available in the market. Plenty available is the PPC, that is Portland pozzolana cement, followed by the PSC, Portland slag cement. So when we are using different kind of ingredients or different kind of cements, well, shall we use the same value for all the models, for all the type of concretes? So that was also a big question mark. So means it is a oversimplification. So means let us not be overconfident. Let us measure and see what is happening to the when I am going with the different types of cements. Okay. Well, if you go into the different literatures, like, there are a lot of literatures have been done actually. I will tell you, like, people have talked about the what are the different kind of factors affecting the steel concrete, the properties of steel concrete interface, such as water cement ratio, type and quality of cement, strength of concrete, mineral admixtures, amount of compaction, aggregate size, type of reinforcement bar, diameter and shape. So there are many such many such factors that is affecting the properties of steel concrete interface. I remember one of my scholar went to the conference, that is TMSF 2019, and was delivering a review work on this slide actually. So how different factors influencing the properties of steel concrete interface. So some of you might have listened about it actually. So in this today's presentation, I will talk about the type and quality of cement. Okay, or you can say the mineral admixtures when I talk about the fly ash and silica fume. Okay, so we will talk about the cements. Well, one more thing actually, I will tell you one more thing here. I just want to show this picture. So what we did actually, this is the plot for the corrosion level, means percentage of corrosion level, and this is my bond strength. See, normally we correlate interfacial transition zone for a reinforced concrete through the bond strength. Till now, we are just correlating with the bond strength. Now, left axis is showing my percentage of corrosion level. So many people have done actually determine the bond strength, or means the data whatever they presented, we have just plotted here. You just see now. See, at the around 2 to 4%, 0 to 4, like 0, 1, 2, 3, you can see here at just the when the just corrosion level is in, means corrosion percentage corrosion level is at 2, 3, 4%, 2, 3%, or you can say in the just beginning stage of the corrosion level, most of the researchers, means all the researchers, have plotted it's a increase in the bond strength. Increase in the bond strength. Why? Because that is the time where pre-expansion takes place. Means till that point, the corrosion products have not exerted any pressure to the concrete, or you can say the concrete till now is not having any kind of nano level or micro level cracks because of the pressure due to the corrosion products. So that is the reason we are experiencing a slight increase in the bond strength. But the moment you can see the corrosion level is increasing, the percentage corrosion level is increasing, drastic reduction in the bond strength of the reinforced concrete. So this is what is very much, means you can see there are many such researchers work is spotted here, and this is exactly proving the mechanisms of corrosion that I just spoken about you. So imagine the theory that we thought of, or that we experienced, we checked with the researchers data, and actually it is matching. Means the initial percentage of corrosion level just beginning, because the concrete is till now not getting stressed, is a pre-expansion. Means rather the space between the steel and concrete is getting filled up with the material, so the bond strength development is happening better, actually slightly better, I would say. So you can see here there is a researcher, like you can see 1 or 2% the bond is increasing from 20 to almost 25, but when the corrosion percentage is increasing, you can see here it is drastically coming down. So almost 10-12% the bond strength is almost getting very low, actually. So that is what is the mechanism, the proving the mechanism of corrosion cracking process. So let us move into the experimental methodology. So this is a very important actually theme of the research. So if you are having any doubt, please ask me. And again, I'm telling. So what we did actually, well, we collected same like OPC, PPC, PSC, fly ash, GGBS, all these materials we collected like same like from the market, and this is the oxide compositions, the specific gravity, and the plane fineness, all is available actually. You can see here. And this is the the particle size distribution like analysis for coarse aggregate, fine aggregate, fly ash, and GGBS. Then chemical analysis of tape water also. We just checked like what are the, because we thought like it should not be having any chlorides or maybe the sulfates, because we were using just tape water. So we make ensured it should be the limit with the IS. And this is the just simple mid design, or like I will tell you, we did for M40 grade concrete, and M40 like we just kept the cement content as a fixed 380 kg per meter cube. Then replace the fly ash and GGBS. And you can see here, this is like any of you, if you would have done the bond strength measurement between steel and concrete, you must have casted this kind of samples actually. This kind of sample because this is what is being prescribed in IS 2770/1967 and reaffirmed in 2007. So you can see here they are suggesting to go this much length of the reinforcements, and this is the my concrete cube actually. So so what we did actually, we like 500 plus 15 millimeters, so 515 millimeter of the reinforcement we painted actually. So that is my thickness of the means diameter of the reinforcement 10, yeah, 10 5, 10 reinforcement. But the paint that I applied on the surface, that you can see the yellow color marked here, is found to be 0.2 millimeter additional than the reinforcement bar dia. So total bar dia here is 10.2 till 515 millimeter, and this 70 millimeter is inside the concrete cube, and diameter is 10 millimeter, because this part is not painted. Not painted. And as per the specification of IS 2770, now the 15 millimeter you have to leave from the bottom of the concrete cube. So this is the schematic representation of sample used for the bond strength measurement. That this is a this is standard actually casting of the samples. Only thing is we have modified a little bit, because we realized when we will expose this whole assembly into the seawater, or maybe we will take it to the curing, curing. Now this portion, because remember this whole cube 100 millimeter, I have to submerge it, isn't it? I have to submerge with the water. Now the problem is, if I'm going to submerge, now this reinforcement should not come in contact with the water, otherwise corrosion will start, isn't it? So to avoid that, this bar is painted. Painted. This is normal paint actually. Normal paint we painted, and then we inserted into the cube. Then you can see here, like see, we have done a lot of advanced characteristics, advanced like studies actually, because ultimate bond strength measurement is one of the testing method specified in the Indian standards, even the ASTM standards. But I know I'm not going to get my desired properties with the ultimate bond strength. Well, ultimate bond strength is just giving me an indirect picture of, yes, what would have been my interfacial transition zone. So you can see here now the same specimen what I showed you here. This is the what. So that this is my cube samples. So again, like this surface is covered with the epoxy actually, to prevent it more for the corrosion. Now you can see here this specimen. This specimen, after taken out from the tubs or maybe the curing tanks, brought it here, and through a cutter, core cutter. You must have seen a core cutter. Now you can see here the cores were taken with rebar, with reinforcement bar. And what is the diameter? Total diameter is 32 millimeter. 32 millimeter. Because why 32 millimeter? Because when I am taking a specimen to the scanning electron microscope, my limitation is 30 millimeter actually. I cannot have a more sample holder beyond 30 millimeter. So means 3 centimeter. Imagine, like it is 3 centimeter, 30 millimeter. So that is necessary for me. Means I am bound actually to restrict my core dia to 32 millimeter. So that is the like nearest size to 30 millimeter. So when I am grinding and polishing it, and I am making it to 30 millimeter. So, so this is the what actually you can see. This is the my first step, and this is the what is my second step. Second step means this course again were sliced. One slice, two slice, three slice, four slice, or whatever the slice you want, you can do it. You can do it, and this is what you can see here. One of the slice having a concrete with the you can see here, this is the my steel. So the steel and concrete interface, or the space between the steel and concrete, is my importance. So how I did actually? Well, so this specimen which is of 30 millimeter of dia, including the river. So I have marked it. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4. I did some markings. So those are the points I decided to go with the scanning electron microscopic images. Now, well, there are many things are there actually we have not mentioned here. To coming from this stage is simple a core cutter. But from a core cutter to a cross-sectional sample, remember, it needs a numerous energy and numerous efforts are required to bring this stage, second stage B to C. Means, first of all, I have to take it to a dimension cutter. Then again, there are a lot of work we have done, like how, the speed of dimension cutter plays a role actually. So that is many things. Then after getting it here, again, I have to impregnate the sample with epoxies. So once I impregnate with epoxies, my sample is giving me a much of a stable actually. So you can see here, it is a very stable sample. There is no cracks and all. Then again, before going to the scanning to microscope image, remember, I have to smoothen it. So I have to take it to a polishing machine. Now here it was a grinding machine. It is a grinding and polishing machine particularly. So with polishing machine, I have to bring it to a desired smoothness level, so that I will easily get a clear image from the scanning electron microscope. Okay. So this is my scanning electron microscope images. You can see later point of time, like in the next slides, I will magnify and we will see how the ITZ looks like. And this is the point where I have decided to go with the points, the spectrums, deciding the energy dispersive spectroscopic analysis. So you have to choose at what point my EDS analysis is going to happen actually. So you have to tell the operator actually. So yes, these are my points. So these are the spectrum 2 means, yes, that is the point. So you want it here, or this side. This is exactly on the ITZ. Okay, so we have done on all the sides. I will show you, and this is my final energy dispersive spectroscopy elemental analysis. That is, which will give me a mapping of calcium to silica ratio. Well, for a cementitious material, the most prominent ratio of elements is the calcium by silica ratio. You must be knowing about it. And last lecture also I spoke about how calcium by silica ratio is playing a vital role in understanding the hydration mechanism actually. Okay, so you can see here for back scattered electron images in SEM, we have taken around 12 images all across the SCI, all across the steel concrete interface. So this is the my steel and this is the my concrete. So this is the my imagine, okay, like, so I have taken, okay, like at a frequent, okay, like uniform interval 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So 12 points I've chosen for taking the backscattered electron images. And you can see here now BSE image showing a typical steel concrete interface of 28 days cured OPC concrete. OPC concrete. Now you can see here, this is my steel, this is the my interface, is a prominent very much, and this is the my concrete, or you can see the hydration products, sand particles, so blah blah. So now what is the important for me? Well, the important for me is we have to go with the grayscale analysis. Now grayscale analysis is a image processing analysis which can determine the pores quantifications, the quantification of pores. So when I go with the steel, suppose I will do the grayscale analysis for a steel. Well, I am getting, this is the my values actually, mean of 222.9. So if I go with the aggregates, pure aggregates grayscale analysis, mean is giving, I'm getting around 111.7. When I'm going with the hydrates, the mean I'm getting 11.9, 111.9. Now when I'm going the pores and voids for a grayscale analysis, I'm getting a mean of 13.8. So that is the what giving me an idea from this picture. So this is the my interface, and you know this is the my interface. So in this picture, can I separate the pores and voids from other materials? Well, exactly, okay, what I did actually, so we did some programming, okay, and through the programming, image analysis programming, we did some BSE, that is backscattered electron image thresholding actually. So we realized, so with a gray value of 42 and below, because the highest for the pore was 82, so we realized 40, okay, so around 40, okay, if we consider or the eliminate the 42 for 40, okay, below, we can say the below 42 is my pores, more than 42 is my other materials, that is my maybe steel, maybe concrete, maybe the aggregates or other materials or hydration products. So clearly you can see this picture, okay, you can see this picture, okay, when I run, okay, the image analysis programming, I'm getting, okay, a BSE image thresholding, I would say the technical term. I'm getting, you can see this is my, you will definitely agree with me, this is my compressed steel, is a uniform, very much uniform actually. And you can see here there are some pores, within the concrete, and this is my definite the space between the steel and the concrete, or the interface between steel and concrete. So what is my next job is? Well, the next job is measure the porous zone, okay, thickness, or measure the space between steel and concrete, or measure the ITZ thickness, interfacial transition zone between steel and concrete thickness. So what we did, you can see here, the same thing, just make it upright, okay, only that zone, only this zone actually, and then measure it. You can see here it is being actually measured, okay. There are okay, like softwares which will measure the distance from one end to another. So you can see here the whole picture, 30 points from top to bottom, almost a uniform, okay, like distance is measured actually, and that is what you can, the values is being presented here. You can see here, somewhere it is 12.01 micrometer, somewhere it is excuse me, 26 point, okay, 92 micrometer, somewhere it is 3 micrometer. So like that. So means whatever, okay, the assumption you must be remembering by this time. Now, till now, people were assuming a uniform ring, okay, around the steel concrete interface, but it is not the case. So there is, you can see the non-uniform, okay, thickness. So that the thickness is non-uniform. So now how we are going to present it? Well, statistically, okay, point of view, if you say, if you see the statistics, you go to the statistics. Statistics says you have to like measure minimum 30, okay, points. 30 minimum points. Your measurement has to be there, and you have to take average of all the measurements. Then you can report for that particular sample. Yes, this is my average porous zone thickness. Okay. So that is the way. The thickness of porous zone thickness measurement is over. Porous zone thickness measurement is over, and then we will see next, okay, results. Okay, then we will see. Now, again, the point is the energy dispersive spectroscopy locations around scanning electron microscope. Around scanning electron microscope. Now, how you are going to do it? That is also important actually, because EDS is going to define, okay, the hydration phenomena. So what we did actually, you can see here, the red one is the assume it is just on the steel concrete interface, and from the steel I know there is no point in going towards steel, because steel we know it is very much uniform, isn't it? So from steel you go, we have gone 20 micrometer distance. So from this point 20, this point 20, this point 20 micrometer, to check what is happening in the hydration mechanisms. No, so I will tell you. Yeah, this picture actually you can see. So somewhere, okay, one point is on the ITZ, and then 20 micrometer, again 20 micrometer, again 20 micrometer, because we know this concrete is only non-uniform or non-homogeneous. So there is a point necessary to check what is happening from the ITZ towards concrete, because steel we know is very much uniform. We don't need to, okay, understand, or a civil engineer no need to measure anything actually. It's a metallurgical point of view, okay, yes, something can be done, but as a civil engineer point of view, nothing can be done. So better to, okay, measure this side. So that is the way we measured, okay, from steel at a 20 micrometer distance. So that is the point where the energy dispersive spectroscopic points were decided actually. Okay. So here you can see the exactly, like you can see here, this is the my steel. So the first spectrum one for a concrete is taken just on the ITZ, that is interfacial transition zone, and this is the spectrum one for the SEI. Second one is okay, spectrum one is 0 micrometer, that's what I was talking about, and spectrum 2 is a 20 micrometer away from the steel surface. So just, okay, what I was telling you, so it is, okay, taken at 20 intervals. So spectrum 2 is a 20 micrometer from the steel concrete interface, and this is the my, you can see here, this is my spectrum 2. Okay. Now let us go into the results and discussions actually. Okay. So backscattered electron images around the steel interface for OPC sample 28 days of curing. Spot 12, spot 3, 6, and 9 means this is my 12 spots. You must have remembered I have counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 like that. So 12. This is my 3, this is my 6, and this is my 9. So, so, so the exactly at 4, okay, 90 locations, how it looks like. This is my steel, this is my interface, this is my concrete. This is just for your understanding. Yeah, so this is the way, okay, actually at 12 spots, okay, this job is being done. 12 spots, but for the presentation, okay, purpose, for clarity, only I'm showing only the 4 spots. So this is okay, the spot 12, 3, 6, and 9. You can see how okay there is a variations in the porous zone thickness. So this is what actually so the measurements of spot 1. So spot 1, okay, like okay, so well, spot 1 we didn't do, okay, so 12, okay, let us go to the 12. So the image is spot 12. So this is, remember, as I told you, this is the what is the first image, and then we measured, okay, here 30 times, okay, and whatever presented here is the average. So 8.16 is the average of 30 measurements. Remember, average of 30 measurements. So like that, all these are 30 measurements, like mean value, standard deviation, minimum, maximum. So now we have to consider the mean values. This is my 28 days, and this is the my 90 days. Similarly, this is for the PPC sample. Similarly, 28 days and my 90 days. Same case, okay, same, okay, mean values. And this is the my PSC, Portland Slag Cement, okay, 28 days and 90 days. Okay. So what is the one? Yes. Now the same values, that the mean values, whatever I shown you in the table, we just plotted here in a spider chart. Now what is a spider chart? A spider chart is going to give me an idea around the circumference how my porous zone thickness is, or how my porous zone looks like. Now what I showed you in the beginning was a very much circular in shape, but after we did all this exercise, after we measured literally, and remember, this is in micron meter. Remember this. This is not in millimeter, not in centimeter. This is in micron meter. Remember this. Okay. So how much it is small actually. So how much sensitive. So here you can see here the scale is being given 0, 4 micron, 8 micron, 12 micron, 16 micron. Okay. So these are the spiders. These are looks like a spider, and this line represents the 20 micron meter. This line represents the 16 micron meter. So like that, so each line is representing 1 micron meter. Now what you are seeing here, first of all, remember one thing is the porous zone thickness is not uniform across the steel and concrete interface. So means the thickness, whatever we were assuming as a uniform layer, it is not the case. So means whatever the models till now is developed for the service life prediction models, by just assuming a porous zone thickness of uniform in nature, are completely invalid. They are not at all valid, because in one place you can see here, one place it is almost going to the 20 micron. So you can see the 18 micron meter for OPC. In one another case, it is around 6 micron meter, 4 micron meter. So how I'm going to consider as a uniform thickness? So that is okay. Whatever the assumption, what we're doing, well, so means those who are working on the mathematical modelings, those who are like developing the mathematics, the mathematical models in the service life prediction, they have to rethink again now. They have to really rethink again for updating their models, because the porous zone thickness cannot be a uniform, because in this part of the concrete, or this part of the steel and concrete, if you see the permeability will be much more as compared to the other part, isn't it? So that is what are going to define the service life. That permeability properties is going to define my service life. So if it is not uniform, well, remember there are some other form of corrosion also may takes place, which normally okay, like call as the pitting corrosions. That is going to be extremely detrimental. Okay, that is one thing. Second thing is, now my title of the topic is I am just interested for the OPC, PPC and PSC. Means when I am taking three types of cements. Now see the 28 days. Okay. Will you tell me like these three types are giving me a single type or single value of corrosion? Not the case. Not the case actually. Not the case. So means they are having different corrosion thicknesses. So in 28 days, if you see here, the PSC, Portland slag cement, which is in the blue color, is found to be lower. Okay, mostly okay, found to be lower values as compared to the OPC and PPC. Okay, OPC and as compared to the OPC and PPC. That's right. Now come to the 90 days. Well, when you come to the 90 days, well, with more prominent curing, the space between the steel and concrete is reducing. That we can experience here actually, and still the PSC is, see the PSC band. Okay, you can see here it is much okay, lower than the OPC and PPC. So means PSC is having more stability actually, more stability if you really do a good okay curing. So curing is very important actually in concrete science. Wherever okay, like you must have okay, here without curing, concrete is zero. Concrete is just zero. So curing is very much adequate. Imagine, even though this dimension now is of micrometer size, but still curing has a decisive influence in the properties in the micrometer size. So imagine how it is influencing in the meter scale structures. So that's why curing is very important when you talk about the quality, okay, quality control practices. Curing is very important. Okay. Then the EDS analysis. Well, if you go to the EDS analysis, okay, like we have done okay, like in a similar way, but only in 4 places. Okay, like 4. Okay, like 12, 6, 3, 12, 3, and 6 and 9. But we have done at the interface and with 20 micrometer away from the interface. Okay, so these are this one, and these are the EDS analysis values actually. So I will not go into the like this one. Means for me the silica and the calcium is important. That's why you can see silica and calcium everywhere is marked as the black in color. So CA by SI ratio finally okay is determined here, and that is what okay is going to be plotted. So I was telling you here. So just to remember, okay, like we have done 6 places, not the 4 places, 6 places, and at 20 micrometer intervals. Okay. Now this picture is very important. Actually, this picture is very important. Now what is the picture? Now here is distance from steel, and this is my calcium by silica ratio. This is my distance from steel, and this is my calcium by silica ratio. Means 0 means on the interface. So on the interface, CA by SU ratio is quite high. So means what is the meaning? Calcium by like CA by SU ratio is means what is the meaning actually? Meaning is the cement grains which are close to the steel surface is not converted into the calcium silicate hydrates. Remember this, calcium silicate hydrates. But the moment we are coming down, I'm getting a Ca by Si ratio of lower magnitude. Lower magnitude means, so here the Ca by Si ratio, the near to the ITZ, near to the steel surface, I can say the I can say more formation of calcium hydroxide as compared to the calcium silicate hydrate. Okay. Now, if you go to the another thing is same thing. Okay, for 28 days, this is for 90 days. Same thing. This is same actually, but what is the our topic is compare OPC, PPC, and PSC. Now, this is a universal actually thing. So when I am going for the PSC, Portland slag cement, you can see here, compare. This is my OPC, this is my PPC, and this is my PSC. Now PSC has a much lower Ca by Si ratio. Means the formation of more calcium silicate hydrate gel for Portland slag cement as compared to PPC and OPC. Well, OPC it is much less actually as compared to PPC and PSC, but PSC is still better than the PPC. Still better than the PPC. But that is what researchers are talking about or recommending PSC in most of the important constructions. So this is what we learned from this topic. And whatever the bond strength, I have talked about the same specimen. We just did the bond, means we pulled the steel from the concrete. Well, here Ca by Si ratio and the ultimate bond. Well, you can see here this is for 28 days, this is for 90 days. So it is natural actually. The 90 days, the calcium silica ratio is lesser, getting lesser, and that is indirectly saying the ultimate bond strength is also higher. Ultimate bond strength also higher. So there is a trend actually. There is a uniform trend is there, but 28 days it is not any trend. But 90 days you can see there is a trend actually. So that is what is showing the ultimate bond strength and calcium by silica ratio. Okay. Well, these are the things I will not talk about much. So yeah, so we will go into directly the conclusions. These are the points. We did some additional analysis, but I will speak some of the other lectures actually. So now the conclusions. So so the preferential formation of calcium hydroxide was confirmed through scanning out microscope images and energy dispersive analysis at the silicon interface. So I was telling you about at the silicon interface, my Ca by Si ratio is higher. Then when you go away from the steel concrete interface, so that indicates the formation of calcium hydroxide rather than calcium silicate hydrate. Second is the gradual reduction in Ca by Si ratio signifies the gradual reduction in calcium hydroxide from the steel surface toward the bulk concrete as the curing period increased. Well, curing period is the key. Remember, I'm telling you again and again, the curing plays a decisive role. Even this measurement was only in a micro level actually, micro level measurement, but it is having a decisive influence. Decisive influence. Then the properties of steel interface were found to be quite influenced by the curing period. There found to be reduction in mean porosion thickness of all three kinds of concrete. When 28 days to 90 days, yes, definite, okay, there is a reduction. The PSC concrete showed significant reduction in mean porogen thickness at SCI as compared to OPC and PPC concrete at 90 days of curing. So just I was telling about Portland slag cement is much okay, showing better performance as compared to both the other type of cements. So the reduction in mean porogen thickness may be considered as one of the many influencing factors which resulted in increased ultimate bond curing. So I just showed you the picture. Okay, so when I'm my ultimate bond strength is increasing. Okay, increasing. So that is natural. Okay, the porogen thickness is going to be reduced. Okay. So the long-term curing, especially okay, like for PPC and PSC concrete, help in the advancement of pozzolanic reaction, and in this process, the calcium hydroxide content reduced at the steel concrete interface, which resulted in increased ultimate bond strength as compared to OPC concrete. So we know it very well actually. The more curing period, or you can say the long-term curing for PPC and PSC, means both the cements are having a secondary cementitious material, is helping me, okay, in the advancement of pozzolanic reaction. That is key actually. So means when you are going for a pozzolanic based material in the concrete, remember you have to go for a little more curing period. That is essential. That also we came to know. And that is okay, going to reduce the calcium hydroxide content. And that is what okay is helping me getting more okay ultimate bond strength as compared to OPC concrete. Well, if I'm getting an ultimate bond strength, what is advantage for me? Well, advantage for me is the service life of the structure is going to be more, because the bond between steel and concrete is much better, much better, and that is going to give me a better service life. Okay. So, well, if you want to go into the more detail of this presentation, actually, you can go into some of the publications my student has done actually, that is influence on sample preparation techniques on microstructure and nanomechanical properties of the interface. It is a very recent publication actually, construction building materials, and what are the work what are the I presented here is from the second paper, that is microstructural study of steel concrete interface and its influence on bond strength of reinforced concrete, that is published in the ASTM International. Okay. And if you want to know more about some of the publications, we have done a lot of review work, lot of other published you can go to this is my website for my sustainable construction and building materials laboratory. So you can go through it and see my publications, and if you have go through it, and if you are finding any kind of doubts, well, you can write to me at any point of time. So these are some of the references for understanding this first, the microstructure steel concrete interface. Then we did our work. So at this point of time, I will ask you if you are having any kind of doubts. We have some time, and I can take few questions. Yeah, Dr. Soba.
Yes, sir.
Now I think you can initiate the question and answer session. If anybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful session. Participants, if you have any queries, you can interact with the guest.
Okay, there is a question. Okay, in the
Yes, sir.
in the in the text box, I can read it.
There is
Okay,
a
like
question
YS.
that
Yeah, please. You can go ahead. You can read it. Hello, Sobana, Miss Sobana. You can hear me? Okay, so I will read the question. Okay, sir, any effect, that is YS Tech Solutions, any effect of microsilica or other cementitious materials on interfacial transition zone? Well, I have already talked about the other cementitious materials like the fly ash and the slab. I will tell you the microsilica. Well, the microsilica has definitely an added advantage for concrete. Always, it is an advantage for the concrete. Now, what are the advantages? Well, we know the microsilica is very much a reactive material and a very much a pozzolanic material. And this pozzolanic material is definitely going to advance the pozzolanic reactions because of the high reactivity. And this high reactivity is going to produce much more additional calcium silicate hydrates, which is going to strengthen my ultimate bond strength and ultimately will going to have a decisive influence on the service life of the structure. So means my concrete is going to be more impermeable, much more resistive, and better durable to the environment. So yes, definite is the advantage when I'm going with the silica fuels. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so I hope you can hear me actually, isn't it? Dr. Muthubiya, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes,
so fine. Okay, so so there is a one more question. I will just read it out. Okay, there is one more question actually. Yeah.
how the percentage of
Yeah.
corrosion is
Well,
calculated?
how the percentage of corrosion is calculated is a beautiful question actually. So, well, corrosion is a very advanced topic actually. Okay, like see, for measurement of corrosion in a steel, you have to have a corrosion analyzer. You have to have a corrosion analyzer. Well, that part actually I just skipped it. I can show you like we have a corrosion analyzer in my lab, and yeah. So this is a potentiostatic, with impedance analyzer. Means it's a potentiostat, like means it is going to measure the potential and it will convert into the percentage of corrosion. It is a completely like there are two processes actually. One is the through the linear polarization techniques. Another is the impedance analysis. So both the methods will give me the percentage of corrosion. So if you like you want to understand what is the percentage of corrosion, then you have to read some literature actually. You have to read, if you have to read, what is the process. Now I will talk about, this is my actually the plot, I would say the TOEFL plot, like I can understand my potentials, so that's why I skipped actually, because this is a really difficult part actually for many of the audience maybe. So I so through this plotting and all, I can understand my corrosion rate. So this is through the linear polarization techniques. Linear polarization techniques. But also there is one more method is through the impedance analysis. So through this, we can measure the corrosion potential. Okay. Any other question? Okay, there is a long, okay, one more question is there. I understand that epoxy coating of steel affect the bond strength, but nowadays lot of corrosion inhibitors are available. So they are protecting the steel from corrosion and so will have better bond strength. Your views on the same. Well, see,
Sir, one more question is there.
yeah.
How do we study various states?
Okay, I will answer this one and then I'll go to that one. Okay. So, well, uh, there are corrosion inhibitors. Yes, that is going to improve the corrosion potentials. But on a bond part, I don't know what is going to happen. Well, that is, those are the admixtures we are adding to the concrete. But I don't know, okay, till now I have not done any studies when I'm adding the corrosion inhibitors, what is happening to the bonds. And remember, corrosion is, there is no correlation to the bond actually. Okay, see, if you say the corrosion inhibitor is strengthening the my microstructure of the concrete, then yes, possibly okay, that might be increasing the bond strength. All right, but if you say the corrosion inhibitors are changing the some kind of chemical phenomena which is making the like steel protective, that may not be having okay influence on the increase in the bond strength. So that studies has to be done actually. So we have not done. I don't have much idea actually whether if you add in corrosion inhibitors, yes, definitely okay, they are going to protect okay the structure against corrosion. But what is happening or what is the improvement in the bond, I cannot say. I'm really sorry. Okay, somebody has to do a systematic study actually, whether it is simultaneous of a phenomenon is happening or not. Okay. Well, you are, I think, uh, from industry, so you can do the studies, or if you can approach some institutions, even like if you can approach me also, I'm ready to okay do this kind of studies. But right now, I will tell you, for a coming 1 year, it is not possible. Actually, I'm not taking up any kind of job because students are not there and students are not allowed. So all the labs are closed. So many of my projects which are currently running are not progressing at all. So the progress is only zero. So experimental point of view, so we have to actually wait for some time to do this kind of studies. And I'm happy actually to if I get okay to this kind of studies. Okay. The next question is, how do we study various stages of hydration includes C3S and C3A liberation? Well, I think you should have attended my last okay lecture actually, where I talked about the the how okay we are that are going to determine the hydration products through very much advanced characterization studies. One of them is thermogravimetric analysis. So if you want to understand the various stages of hydration and want to determine their percentages, so thermogravimetric analysis is one of the solution actually. So I think somebody might be having a recording, you can check it also. Okay. Anybody else? So if not, So thank you one and all, and thank you for your attention. And you can discuss with me at any point of time. Any point of time you can discuss with me about the
Thank you, sir.
yeah.
Thank you for accepting our invitation and for your presence, sir.
Thank you
We
so
had
much,
a
Dr. Muthupriya.
wonderful session, sir.
Thank you so much.
Participants, if you have any queries, you can interact with sir later. Attendance link will be shared now. Kindly fill it. Tomorrow, kindly join in the same time, in the same link. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muthupriya. Have a good time. Bye bye.
Hello, sir. Sir, can you share this PPT?
Yeah, I can share it. Okay, but that's why I told you there are two papers are there. Okay,
Yes, sir.
you can go through these two papers. Okay, because this PPT is having lot many informations, and some of the informations are till now not published. Okay, so you better. That's why I told you most of my presentation is on the published papers actually. Whatever I am speaking spoke today is from the ASTM paper, so you can go into it. Even there is another paper we recently published on the similar kind of work, but more into the nanomechanical properties, means nano indentation and all. So that is also published in construction building materials. You can go through it. Okay, like so, there are many things. That's why I told you the corrosion measurement. There are many things are there which are not yet published. Okay, so that's why I am unable to share the PPT, but I can share the published both the PDF published papers. I will give it to Dr. Muthupriya, and then you can collect it from the madam. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. See you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful session, sir.
Thank you, Savannah. Thank you.
Participants, I have posted the attendance link in the chat box. Kindly fill the attendance link. Thank you all.